So it's been recorded. We give it another minute or so to see if there's others, because quite a few people had said they were coming, had accepted the invitation. And we'll give them a chance, because sometimes you're finishing off one Zoom to go on to another. It seems to be one Zoom after another, or one Teams or whatever online. So everyone is looking great. And we've had a lovely bright day here in Ireland, and this is usually one of the darkest months, so it's been a good day. I heard Scott earlier said it's been raining in Paris, but it's been a beautiful day here. So we hope we'll give it to about 2 minutes past without people in, if we're happy. So we may wait 1 more minute, and then we'll get going. And I am conscious that we penalise the people who turn up on time by waiting for those who are a little bit late. So we definitely won't leave it too long before we start. And it's getting on, so we're all getting ready for the for year end. So most people are busy in other ways. And I ask people, if you need to say something during the webinar, keep your microphone muted, please, and raise your hand virtually and we'll get to you during the Q&A. Okay, it's 2 minutes past, so good afternoon, good morning, whatever part of the world you're in. You're very welcome to the Buildings Action Coalition BAC Learning webinar. As you know, we run our webinars on the second Wednesday of every month. And we're very pleased to run this particular session with the Passive House Institute and the International Passive House Association. The IPHA is a double network of passive house stakeholders, including architects, planners, scientists, suppliers, manufacturers, policymakers, contractors, property developers, and more. The association works to promote the passive house standard and foster a greater public understanding of highly efficient buildings. We'll hear more about them from Karl Halbach, and he has a small presentation to show in just a moment. Karl is the International Communications Manager for the Passive House Institute. The main presentation today will be by Susanne Winkel. Any of you who were at our summit in Enniscorthy last June will have met her, and I'm sure that you're interested to hear what she has to say today. And she is head of training, the training department and partner management for the global education scheme of Passive House Institute. And as we do in all our webinars, Suzanne will present for 20 to 30 minutes, and that will be followed by Q&A, which will today be moderated, facilitated by Scott Foster and Karl Halbach. And for those of you who don't know anything about the Buildings Action Coalition, it's a gathering of very passionate, like-minded individuals and entities who are persuading the world that achieving a high performance in the built environment to meet climate and resource challenges while delivering quality of life. The BAC, as it's called, seeks to raise the performance of buildings and the built environment, to deliver the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Climate Agenda. And the mission is to make real, rapid, and measurable improvements in buildings and the built environment to enhance the quality of life globally and to meet the climate challenge. The Enniscorthy Forum, we host the Secretariat for the BAC, the Buildings Action Coalition, and the BAC is activating a global movement to deliver on vision. And it comprises of community level organisations, industries, universities and thought leaders from around the world, dedicated to making real and rapid difference in the built environment to enhance quality of life globally, while again meeting the climate challenge. It's all about that for us in the Buildings Action Coalition. We have a very wide, a broad slate of projects and activities to improve the performance of buildings and the built environment. And we invite anyone that's interested in joining our coalition. I'd ask you to contact me at ba@enniscorthyforum.org or have a look at our website, enniscorthyforum.org, and you'll find my contact details there. So without further ado, let me turn the microphone over to Karl Halbach to provide a few introductory remarks and to do his slideshow. And then he will hand over to Suzanne. Karl, it's all yours.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm going to try to share my screen. should only take a second. I had to have some slides as well, I guess. You see my slides now, right? I'm assuming. All right.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
All right, so let me get into it. I'll try to be very brief because the meat of this session is really delivered by Susanna here. I thought about what to present. I mean, I see a lot of familiar faces in the room and familiar names in the attendee list. So I think most of you are familiar with the Passive House standard, and I kind of wanted to focus on the Passive House Institute and IFA, so the International Passive House Association, and how they link. So maybe that's not clear to everyone. But yeah, let me just get started. I did have the first slide here where I, just as a sum up for those, if there's anyone here who really not familiar with the Passive House standard, we base everything on the 5 Passive House principles. And it's, it's a voluntary performance standard that we think is incredibly important in the, and I have some background noise, incredibly important in the fight to reduce CO2 emissions by delivering this very energy efficient building. So in theory, I don't know if we can mute John here. There's a lot of background noise, I think, from him. So by increasing the air quality and comfort for the inhabitants, but at the same time reducing the energy usage of those buildings drastically. I have a couple of pictures here just to show, these are really just to show that passive houses, although the name might suggest otherwise, can be very different kinds of buildings, a lot of building topologies from single family houses to also bigger apartment complexes and even whole quarters. But as I was saying, when I made up this presentation, I thought I really wanted to show how the Passive House Institute and the association fit in. So here you can see a little bit of an overview over the Passive House Institute and the organization and the different departments. Of course, like training education, we have Susanne here, who is the head of that department, and she's going to tell us more. Initially, the Passive House Institute was a research institute, and then kind of all the other things came from the research, and everything is based in the research. So we have tools to plan passive houses. We do component certification, building certification, and also we have Passipedia. So if you have not checked that out, I might put the link in the chat later. It's very, very cool database for all things passive house, knowledge database. And then we have the communications, and this is basically where IFA comes in. So we're a global member network of 6,000 members as of now, and 21 affiliate organizations. I'll talk about them in a second. Yeah, and we are doing this, of course, to increase the buildings that are passive houses through new builds and also retrofits. Also a challenge that Susanne is going to speak about. I'm really just giving a little intro here. And here you can see a little slide with the certified square meters of passive house. So this is an important caveat here. These are the ones that are actually certified. There's a lot more that may have not gone with the certification route, but these are the ones we can vouch for. So that's the number we communicate here. You can see it's over 3 million square meters as of last year, or early this year, actually. And we also have, that's why I put this picture here, we also have groundbreaking projects like the Klinikum, so a hospital in Frankfurt that was the first certified one built to the Passive House standard. How do we work? So we think that quality assurance is really the basis to make sure that these buildings deliver what they promise and that we reach our targets here, right? So we have these different components of in this chain, so to say. The people, that's Susanne is going to talk about that, of course, how to train the people. The design tools I touched upon. We have the Passive House planning package, which is really the basis of all of that, but we have others as well. And then having good components, so helping the development of good components in markets around the world to, in the end, have a building that performs well. And then the QA process, or the quality assurance process, really comes from the certification here. There you go, certification for transparency and quality assurance, exactly. Also, I wanted to show this, although I know maybe the slides will come again. I'm actually not sure, but maybe Susanna also has this. So we have 2 courses that are really the foundation of the course program, and Susanna will talk more about it. But just to show you how spread out the people really are, because I'm coming from that international side of things, right? But of course, we don't do that by ourselves. That's also something we have to highlight. This is something that we do with a lot of partners around the world. Otherwise, we are a fairly small company institute. We wouldn't have the reach we do right now without the partners. That brings me to another set of partners, and these are the affiliates. So the International Passive House Association has 21 affiliates around the world as of now. And you can really see that we are spread out, which is great. We have a little bit of a cluster in Western Europe, I would say. But you can also see we have three organizations in the United States, for example, a new organization in Latin America, and we also have partners in Australia and New Zealand. So we really try to spread out to, reach out to as many people as possible. Just a little overview of how we do this. We have webinars. We have a lot of stuff on our social media. We're trying to reach people through that because it's fairly effective, especially LinkedIn. We have a big presence. We also have brochures and all that good stuff, and also Passipedia, which I mentioned in the beginning. And I'm trying to come to an end here to hand over to Susanna. We also do it, of course, by having a big conference, international conference, which will be next year in Innsbruck, Austria. And I couldn't resist to have a little plug here on this stage as well, to invite you all, of course, if you are interested, to join us there. But that's already it. Very short, as I was saying, just a little overview over the Passivhaus Institute and the International Passivhaus Association. Now I'm looking forward to Susanna's presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for us. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so then it's my turn. I will share my screen. One moment, please. I have this here. So you should see my screen now. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, thanks a lot, Carl and Barbara Ann, for this introduction here. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here and to have in the next hour hopefully a good discussion about retrofits. So I also saw that many familiar people are here. So from our partners and people who are aware of Passive House. So I would, try to not bore you, but try to bring a bit of some arguments to maybe also to give some inputs for communication and so on. Okay, so the topic is retrofit. So our topic at retrofit, most of you know it, is the slogan, "If you do it right." Retrofit is a challenge. You can see this on the left side here, and you can see also the solution on the right side here, the picture. This is an Enerfit retrofit, so a retrofit with Passive House components done in Innsbruck in Austria. It's the university building. And you can, again, some kind of advertising. You can maybe have a look on it when you maybe join us at our conference, like Carl said before. But now this is also enough with advertising here. Let's go to our topic. Of course, having some beacon projects is not going to change the world. So we really have to do more. We really have to go on this challenge and ask ourselves, how do we achieve a climate neutral building stock so all over the world? That's the challenge. And I think in my point of view, it's really a great challenge. And all our efforts have to be brought here in this topic. Okay, I think lots of things are done already. You know this with Passive House new builds, and maybe you know also several projects of retrofits. So what do we know? So we know that in many parts of the world, in all those cool and cool temperate climates, it's not sufficient to only rely on renewable energies because it's not enough in winter time. So you see this here. I think maybe you are familiar with those graphs. We have to bring down the demand, but even if we bring it down, it's also a challenge there. What we also know is that if we only rely on renewable energies or want to rely on renewable energies, we have to calculate carefully and we have to calculate realistically. So we don't want to be climate neutral on paper, but unfortunately this could be the case if we are relying only on those primary energy calculations, which is done in many countries of the world, if it's done. So we have to make sure that the primary energy calculation or the energy calculation itself is realistic. You know, we have the Passive House, the PHPP, the Passive House Planning Packet for this. And we also have developed this sustainable rating system, this PER system, so primary energy renewable. And most of you know also that we have to see here where and when we have renewable energies, especially solar energy. And this is brought also into this PHPP, into the climate data set, so that we can be sure that all those losses we will have if we can storage renewable energy, maybe also for seasonal storages, that we can calculate the storages within the system and not making people thinking that all this renewable we have in the summer in the colder climates can be used one-to-one in the winter time. So this is a very important communication topic. Of course, you know about this, but I think it's very important how we communicate this because it's not understood at all. And we know also that, of course, it's important to have a look on the CO2 emissions caused by construction materials and upstream supplies, so all those things what is before the use and operation of the building. But we know that the biggest impact will have bringing down the demand of the use and operation phase. This is for clear, but this is also for most of us here, I think this is clear, but this isn't clear in the communication in many countries, and this is a big challenge to communicate and make people clear about this. We also know that thermal insulation is economic, so because we know that we have to calculate the investment cost with the living costs, the cost over the lifetime of the building, but also this is not clear in many countries, and the politics are not clear about this. So this is also a challenge to communicate. Also, topic of health topics here and building science. So to get rid of mold problems, having a better insulation, and also this topic of another topic of health, bringing down the CO2 indoor air concentration. This is also very important to communicate. Of course, also the topic of getting the energy demand down will come later. By the way, if all those details I'm showing here, I'm going quite quick through the slides here. If this is not so familiar for you, if you would like to have more details, then would be a possibility to take a Passive House Designer course, which, like Carl mentioned before, is offered by many course providers all over the world. And also you can find those course providers at our website. But if you just search at Google, then you will find this also. Yeah, and also we know, and we have several experiences with passive house retrofits, and we know that we can bring down the energy demand quite well, so up to factor 10. And also that if there are some problems with the facade, so it couldn't be an exterior insulation with other measures, and also with interior insulation, also the energy demand can be brought down quite intensively. Again here, if you maybe need more details, especially maybe on interior installation, because here building science will come into the game, and it would be good to have here more information on this, clearer information. Then yeah, you can find the information at your local offer of passive house designer courses. Okay, so we know all this. We know how we should do this, how we should renovate, retrofit buildings. Yeah, so let's get started. Problem is understood, and yeah, let's refurbish as much as possible and as quickly as possible. Yeah, the problem is a bit that dealing with 1 or 2 buildings, this is clear, but how can we go with the whole building stock? A few years ago, we had a great discussion here in Germany, and we still have this discussion in Germany about how to get this building stock climate neutral. So the one group is saying, okay, we need to go, we need to use deep retrofits. So the passive house components, the NFIT standard. This is of course PHI's thinking, and but there are several other groups who are thinking, okay, maybe it's not so necessary to do this deep retrofit. Maybe just increase to a high rate the retrofit rate. You can see here a graph of we have done a few years ago. The blue lines here, the blue dots and the lines are German building codes, and the light blue one is funding code in Germany, and the orange is NFIT standard, and the gray one is the NFIT standard, which if this would be possible to accelerate this. So to see if we are going through the blue lines, I'm not sure if you can see my mouse here. Okay, great, then I can use this also. If we will go with the German building code, which is not the worst in the world, but it's still not sufficient, of course. And if we are doing this accelerated, this doesn't make sense because we won't get to zero emissions. So this is out. Then PHI thought, okay, let's think about, is it possible to take the NFIT standard and do this accelerated? If you see here, you can see it here. It would be a really great opportunity because we will be down in a few years to zero emissions. And then we had a look on, my colleagues had a look on the investments. And you can see here how the investment curve is going. We would have to invest so much money to make this happen, to increase in a good way the retrofit rate. We have to have more people who are doing this, more designers, more engineers, more people on site. We have to have more products, building products. We have to have more people who are developing these products. So all this would cost so much money that it's yeah, seems a bit unrealistic. But what you can, and the other question is, of course, what will we do with all those people after this curve is getting down? So this is also a social topic coming into this thinking here. What you can also see regarding the investments is that the NFIT standard is not so far away from the German energy code. So this is quite more realistic than this having the opportunity to doing this retrofitting much more accelerated. And this is, for example, the idea to accelerate the NFIT. As I said before, accelerating with the German building code or with a normal building code, so to say, in most countries, this won't work at all. So we see here that this accelerating topic, this increasing to a high rate, this retrofit rate this is unrealistic, this is not doable. And what we can do and what we should do is the NFIT standard. For those of you who are not familiar, I know this word NFIT is not so clear for many people. So it's coming from energy retrofit with passive house components. So that's what it's meant here. Just bringing all the topics from passive house new builds to the retrofits. We know we have some challenges with retrofits here for basement and airtightness and that's why the criteria for the NFIT standard is not so high like the passive house new build standard, but it's developed also the criteria for different climates, so it can be done and can be used since several years. I would like to take this EPBD draft here as an example for misunderstandings, and also it's the topic of communications, and maybe we can also discuss this later. So for those who are not familiar with the EPBD draft, this is Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. So this is an EU directive. It's several years before they started it, and the NZEB, the Near Zero Energy Building, you heard about this, is coming from this, and now they had a new draft, or they have a new draft, and this is going for this, so the ZEP will be implemented, so the zero emission building. And what is kind of key here is the idea regarding the building stock, to bring all those buildings to classify it in different classifications, to bring this in different classifications, and to get an improvement by retrofitting the worst buildings or several buildings until 2030 to moderate standards, so to say. And maybe you heard about that. Last week they got an agreement at the EU saying, okay, 70% primary energy savings by 2030, and then 20% by 2035, and then 55% they should be done by retrofitting the worst. And all those numbers, by the way, I'm not understanding how they can come to these numbers, but anyways, all those numbers for me, and I think for us and most, maybe hopefully most of you, are not so important, because if we are doing this, if we are retrofitting buildings to a moderate standard for the next years, then it will be a login effect, because you can imagine if you are retrofitting this kind of building, the university, like what we saw before, to a moderate standard until 2035, no one would get the idea to retrofit this again 15 years later or even 20 years later. So this won't happen. All those buildings which are now retrofitted to a moderate standard cannot be are lost, so to say. They won't, or only very less of them will be renovated again and be climate neutral then at 2050. So we have to avoid login effects. We have to use coupling principles. So the slogan, if you do it right, that's why it comes. Yeah, but of course we have a little problem here, because not all institutions and not all homeowners, of course, can have now a complete renovation of the whole building. We have to deal with this also, and what is economical also, maybe if things are renovated before. We have since several years the opportunity to do this step-by-step. Stage retrofit, you heard about this. The solution here is to not renovate the whole building, but starting maybe, for example, with windows and doors, and then doing the facade, then the roof. And at the end, you have the chance to really have a climate neutral building if you have done all those different steps before in a high energy efficient way as a deep retrofit. then it's possible. So this has been done also with in several examples. Also, these details are clear. What would be the intermediate state and how you can then fix it, or how you have a good situation if you maybe do the wall first and then the windows a few years later, where it should be implemented, and then that you at the end have really a good situation here with no thermal bridges and all the deep retrofitting topics included. Also, for example, if you do the roof first and the wall later, how to deal with the eave right from the beginning, then afterwards the walls can be implemented quite well and easy. Again, if you need more details, you know what to do. Just have a look on the possibilities to take a passive house designer course or other courses. Okay, I have to admit that there's a problem, of course, because if you can imagine, a homeowner is retrofitting one first step or is doing one first step, and 10 years later he or she will do the next step, then maybe it could be a problem because maybe there's another architect, maybe this is also another homeowner, so maybe information is lost. Passive House Institute has developed for this the NFIT retrofit plan, where you can plan and document all those things you have done or you will do in the future. So it's a clearly arranged overview for the building owners and also for future people who work on this. And of course, you can also have a certification of this, or not only a certification when the building has done the final step, but also at the beginning. So to make sure that quality assurance also for this energy NFIT retrofit plan can be good. Okay, so again, if you want more details, just have a look on the courses. The next very important topic, of course, is this serial retrofit. We hear a lot of this, and you maybe also. I think this is a really good opportunity to increase the retrofit rate to a certain amount. So this is very important that we are doing this to increase this rate and also shorten construction times, save money and whatever. And but what is very important here it's the same, and this is also for many companies and organizations misunderstood. This is not a solution to do the prefabricated elements, the serial retrofit. Here also it's the solution to do this as a deep retrofit. And this is very important because this is just sometimes fell off the desk, is falling off the desk, that people are thinking if we're doing serial retrofits, this is a good situation. But it has to be a deep serial retrofit and not a moderate standard. So this prefab elements, so this is used since several years for new builds, and now also for this retrofits. Here also there are several examples. The details are there and are developed at the moment. So this is a situation which is just in the running, so to say. And not only for the solutions are there or done for the building envelope, but also for the building service. So here an example to bring the ventilation unit within those serial retrofit. Yeah, so I think I'm very happy that this has happened now, and I hope that people will understand that we have to use this really good opportunity with deep retrofits to compare it. And this is also, again, a communication topic. Very important also how we can supply then those climate neutral buildings. The deep retrofits, district heating, we talked about this a lot also in our meeting in NS-Corsi in summer or beginning of summer. What is here to be mentioned is that it's very important that this district heating is, so to say, more local heating. So this is a short distance district heating. and that is it makes many sense in high dense in areas with high density of population. So to say cities, this is very important. And the other topic what I wanted to mention here is that we have to make clear here, this is also a misunderstanding in many cases, that people think, okay, we have here in this region, we have in an industry which needs really a high amount of energy. And this is really cool because then we can use this energy to heat our districts. So this, this will be also a lock-in effect because it will be also a question of then we will block the industry, so to say, from bringing down their demands. So this has to be clear. This couldn't be the solution that the industry could still have high energy demands, and because we can use this for our district heating. So also a communication topic here, which is often misunderstood, especially in politic levels and lobbyist levels. Another sustainable supply opportunity, of course, is the heat pump. This is can be a standard solution. And also regarding the topic of, I'm not sure if this is the right word, the right wording. So this cold district heating, so have district heating with low temperatures, then you can have a heat pump at the buildings and then easily heat the rest. Heat pumps, it's very interesting also for retrofits, of course, not only for new builds. But what is very important here that the heat pump must match the building. So if the heat pump is too small, it's not a good situation, and if it's too large, the same, it's not a good situation. So it's very important that regarding retrofits, the building envelope is first improved, and then it's possible to install a new heating system because you know what you need. And you can take the smallest heat pump you need. Of course, it's cheaper than also. So this also is very important to get understood. Also a question which is often asked. Of course, you can use heat pumps, for example, also mini split devices also in addition to existing heating systems. And then after retrofitting the building envelope, then you can replace the old heating system and use the heat pump on, and also the mini split. I'm not sure. I think most of you know that the first passive house from Wolfgang Peiss in Darmstadt-Kranichstein, this is heated only with the mini split device, and this is it's working since several years. Also ventilation, we had before the topic of health care, about health regarding the ventilation. If we are doing this with heat recovery, we can bring down the heating demand of the building nearly to half. So this is also in the case of energy, reducing the energy demand, very important. And also here we have several examples of how this could be done in retrofits. So this is now new topics. Again, if you need more details, just go to the designer courses or to the offerings. Okay, so I try to bring several topics here. I'm aware that most of you know those, but I think it should be a good base now to get in a good discussion. Here's some examples from several kinds of buildings. This is also not a very new retrofits, so several of them are 10 years old or even older. You have this as also in different countries, different parts of the world, and also as different building types. You see here again this university building, and also this sewing factory. Maybe this is also very important here to mention that, of course, deep retrofit is not only a topic for cool and cool temperate climates, but also very important for warm climates and also hot and humid. You see here that this is located in Sri Lanka, this building, because we also, of course, need to bring down the cooling demand. Okay, with this as a base of our hopefully good discussion now, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to get into the discussion now. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Susanna. That was a very compelling and very interesting presentation. If you could actually stop sharing your screen, we can get into the discussion. I'd like to say hello and welcome to everybody, add my own welcome. As I've always done with these moderations, I actually prefer to get questions from the floor. So if you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand and you will be asked a question as a priority. Carl and I have conspired to come up with some questions that we will ask Susanna. Hopefully we'll catch her a bit by surprise. But if you do raise a hand, we will call on you. I'd like to kick it off with a first question on the retrofit market. Every time folks look at the retrofit financing, they have a spreadsheet that looks at the energy savings, and then they look at the cost of doing the retrofit and compare that with how much energy is going to get saved. And that leads to a pretty limited opportunity set. And if you add on to energy savings, all of the other benefits, and you've mentioned a number of them, Susanna, there's the health, there's affordability, there's some bigger questions like security of supply, social justice. I can go on and on and on. Is there a way to capture some of those non-energy savings benefits? And since a lot of those benefits accrue not to the homeowner and not to the occupier of the building, is there somehow we can use other people's money to pay for the retrofit? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, Susanna.
Yeah, so you're referring here to how this can be paid, pay off. So how can people afford those retrofits here? And also you mentioned the social topic here. So I think it's very important, of course, that there will be in the future, and there somehow is to a bit amount, also help from governmental side, because in the last years, governments and lobbyists are, have done a good job on putting the responsibilities to the people. So the responsibility for climate change, so you are, it's your fault, for example, that you haven't renovated your building. It's your fault that, so the planes have so much emissions. So, and I think we all know that it's not so fair. So governments have to step in, even if we saw that all those thousands of people are traveling through the COP. So this is not a good situation, of course. I think there should be a great effort to going into the situation that the governments are doing something regarding fundings and taxes and so on. And also regarding social aspects. So with all those renovations, it should make clear that it shouldn't be the burden of poor people to burden all those retrofits. If this can be done, it can't be done. And this is a very important, interesting topic of this new agreement for the EPBD draft. I told you that it's they said that there should be some rules, or there are some rules now that this won't happen, so that disadvantaged population groups are not burdened too high. And so bringing this into action, or this, there's a very important effort to be done by the government, but we shouldn't rely on this. And this is a very important topic we now see, for example, in Germany. So in many other countries also. So if governments are developing things, fundings and taxes, and then there's a new government, then you can see how this is going. So all those could change very fast. And in Germany, the situation at the moment that just the money is out. So they're searching for 60 billion euros, which they wanted to put a great amount of this into measures against climate change. So we cannot rely on those governmental fundings and taxes. We should change a bit our communications. And somehow I'm feeling a bit angry also about this, because we see that, for example, in Germany, many people could afford more than the German building code. You know, there are many people who could afford this, but they are not doing this. And because they are always thinking, I don't have to do it. And this, so don't they have kids or grandchildren? So this bringing into action this future topic, this is very important. And another topic which is very, from my side, one of the key topics here, to raise the awareness of people regarding these topics. And at the moment, in most cases, passive house standard or high energy efficiency deep retrofit, it's not a normal standard. It's a special topic. It's a special thing, and special things are nice to have, but it's not. And this is exactly what we should do. Passive house and deep retrofit should be the way how we build today, and we have to bring this. And this is the end of my answering that. We have to bring this into universities, vocational schools, high schools, kindergartens, because maybe so the COP, I think, looks like a disaster now, the results, but maybe it's also a really great disaster, having the imagination that how many million young people are going from out of the university and vocational schools without having in their mind that high energy efficiency is the way we build today. And this is, from my perspective, a great disaster, and we have to change this.
Thank you very much for that complete answer. I will say that we are having a major set of initiatives on the education front, so we couldn't agree more with what your observation is, that let's get the whole education system from kindergarten through university focused on the issue. We have a hand up from Mark Costa. I'm going to hand it off to Carl after Mark, but I'm going to let Mark go first. Mark, you want to come in with your question from sunny California?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, everybody, good morning from California. Maybe to dig in a little bit, Scott, or put another dimension on that question, what advice would you have for local governments or even states looking to pass a building performance ordinance and put the passive house standard into it? And, I ask because I'm kicking off a project to do that in a Southern California city. And the main question is affordability. So it kind of hits on Scott's other question. Rent-controlled multifamily tenants. We have some ideas up our sleeves, but just the experience of Brussels and other European cities that have done that, and in some flavors, some cities in California. Just what general advice would you give somebody, as supporting a city and to a city itself that really want to integrate this? Like, what were the key points that really got the passive house standard, particularly for retrofits, adopted in cities?
So I think there's no one solution or one step we can do there. So it must be a really combined measures, and also all what we said here before. So first thing, of course, is don't stop convincing politics. Don't stop going to them and talking and talking and talking. This is what we are doing since several years. Many of you know about this and have done this. And the second topic is bringing the awareness into the people, and maybe bringing this awareness into population groups who maybe you have not thought about regarding the school topics here. So if in the schools like InShow is doing, we have a really good example here from In. Thanks again for this In. So if young children are coming from school or from kindergarten talking about this and asking questions, this is from the change from the bottom. So it has to be changes from up and from down and from in between. And this is the great challenge. We can't, there's no answer what we can do and then it's fixed. Of course, then if we would have this, then we would have done it years ago. But yeah, this is the advice is come together with many of people like we are here and combining all our efforts to maybe doing a plan for the different things, going to the kindergartens, the schools, universities. So convincing university teacher, this is a big challenge, you know, one of the very big challenge. And if we have done this, then we are a great step further. And maybe it would be good to have a plan, to make a plan together. And this is, I think, what also the IFA affiliates are doing, bringing all those efforts together. And yeah.
Appreciate it. We have 12 months, so we'll see how much market transformation we can make in 12 months. But just, you know, I know there's probably other questions, but, you know, we're just toying with other ideas. I'll follow up maybe separate, Scott, if you can connect us with introducing, you know, voluntary carbon market from the third party that already exists, that's doing pretty good work and getting a lot of traction. So that injects a little bit of philanthropic, other people's money into the mix. And also looking at layering grid services and virtual power plants as an additional revenue stream. So, well, I think that those could be appealing, but we'll follow up separate on that.
Okay. We'll put you in contact in particular with Richard Orr and Duncan Smith from River Clyde Homes. They do run social housing schemes in Scotland, and they've succeeded in getting the Scots to tighten their standards. So that engagement, I think, could be a useful experience for you. Let me turn now to Carl. I think you had a couple of questions up your sleeve.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Susanne, you showed us in the presentation, right, that we really need to upscale. So we really need to accelerate the adoption of energy efficiency in the building environment, in the built environment. And we also heard a lot about your frustration, which I share with you, I would say. But turning to a little more positive note, like maybe if you look around the world, I mean, I mentioned in the beginning, we have many partners. Also, I see quite a few that are here today, so that's very nice. Maybe they can also chime in. But if you look around the world and in regards to training and capacity building, right? Do you see any good examples? Do you see any case studies we can follow, like from countries or maybe from smaller like communities that you can share with us? I guess that would be my question.
Yeah, so what's coming first into my mind, because I love this situation, really what's now happening in the UK. Sorry? Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, what is now happening in the UK. So, and this is a good example because it includes the institutions, and this is a very important topic to take this institutions as soon as much as in this topics in our efforts as it's possible. So the Royal Institute of British Architecture, the RIBA, implemented the task of energy efficiency in their requirements, and that means that the universities in the UK have to react and implement this also. And then they had a big problem and saying, okay, what we are doing now, how we can fix this, how we can really quick going to implement this. And then one of our course provider, Coaction in the UK, stepped in together with Passive House Trust and developed teaching units for universities. It's for free for them, for the universities. They can use it, even if maybe those university teachers are maybe not fully convinced of what is told there. But this is now starting. They are using this this semester is just started, and they want to make this make more of this. And this is really a good example how so institutions, if you get them on board, to how they can implement things, and this is a very important topic. Another good example is the situation in Spain. There are lots of passive house projects in Spain, and I think somehow there was a kind of awareness, and maybe there are just many people working in this country in the same direction. And also, of course, regarding governmental situations, examples of Vancouver is here to mention also, but quite a bit newer than Massachusetts and Scotland. So here we have situations where the government stepped in with a bit more ambitious requirements. And this is a good situation, but we we have to be careful with this because governments can change. Also, local governments can change, and I think this is a good situation to have. But we should not rely on this. The convincing people and bringing the awareness to the people. This is the most important thing. And maybe one sentence left here. If there's a homeowner who wants to do something with his house, at the moment the situation is an architect is coming or a construction site people is coming, telling him or her, okay, you should do 10 centimeters of insulation here in Germany or 12. So that's okay, this is what we are doing. So if we would have the case that the first architect is saying, okay, we are doing here 24 centimeters, 25 centimeters of insulation, triple glazing. And if also then the construction site guy is telling the same, and the second architect maybe is also telling the same, then we won't have a problem of the awareness of people. So we have to bring it into the mind of the people, the professionals. And if they are telling the right story on the building site to the homeowners and also to investment companies, then this would be a situation. And then maybe this wouldn't be a problem if government is changing. Maybe not sure the Netherlands at the moment how maybe if they had some ambitious topics before, not sure how this will end now. So this is most important from my perspective.
All right, thank you. We're actually just about out of time. I know Barbara Ann likes to drop the guillotine right at the hour. Let me ask a complex question, but just a staccato response if possible. I'd be interested in your opinion about the building's breakthrough target that was announced by France at COP and Morocco. And the second one, of all of the programs you run, and it's hugely impressive, which ones do you find the most effective? How do you measure effectiveness? And do you see differences around the world?
Okay, this is not so easy to make a short answer. I will try my best. So again, I think this is all things we are doing or are developed all over the world. So they have to be as ambitious as possible. So if there are thoughts to make, I told it before, a high increase in the retrofitting rate or other ideas, all what we are doing has to go for this with the slogan: if we do it right. And if we don't forget this, and if we can bring the quality of what we are doing into the life of all those implementations of all those ideas worldwide, then this is a key topic. If we are developing several programs all over the world and which are not ambitious enough and which leads us to moderate standards in 15 years, then we are not. It's not possible to be climate neutral in 2050. So this is, I think, a short answer for all this.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think with 1 minute left, we'll turn you back over to Barbara Ann to tell us everything.
Thank you so much, Susanna, not just for your comprehensive, your wonderful presentation, but your comprehensive answers to the questions that were asked. And it's an area that hugely interests me. So I'm going to rewatch this webinar, which will be on our website in the next day or two. So to make sure that I haven't missed anything. And we'll have your presentation as well. I also want to thank Carl for coming and for telling us a bit about PHI, and for Scott and Carl for facilitating today. Our next webinar is on January the 10th, 2024, and that's at 4 o'clock again. And we'll have Dragomir Tazev, is it? From the, I'm not sure about how to pronounce his surname. He's the Executive Director of the Center for Energy Efficiency. It's ENEFECT in Bulgaria. And he will do the presentation on that occasion. And I'd like to remind everyone, I did send out a note earlier in December to say that our next Buildings Action Coalition Summit will be on from April 8th to 10th, 2024 in Enniscorthy. So maybe if you're going to go to Innsbruck, you can stop off here on your way back. So there's no way that you can, you don't have to go to one and not the other. You can always go to both. So all it takes from me now is to say, we always finish on time so people can be guaranteed that you're going to be off on the hour. So I want to wish you all a happy Christmas, and we'll see you all in the new year. And meanwhile, stay safe. Thank you so much for coming today. And thanks again, Susanna.
Thanks
Thank
again
you.
for having me here and giving the opportunity. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
time. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Susanna, you're great.